Hey guys, welcome back to my garage. As you can see, we are ready to paint, kind of. We're gonna spray primer today. Been kind of battling the weather lately and it's just been too cold to spray anything. I can get my garage up to temperature. I've got more than enough heaters, but the problem is, you see my ghetto ventilation system I got going on. You want to ventilate when you spray. So as I'm pulling air out, I've got this window open to let fresh air in. And if it's -10 out, it's gonna cool the garage off too quick. So we've had a break in the weather this week, and it's supposed to be a really nice week. Like it got up to 22 today, which is like, I don't know, Fahrenheit 70-ish, 75. So I'm gonna take advantage of the weather and I wanna get this thing sprayed in color this week. So today I'm going to spray it with high build primer, and I'm not using the best equipment. I'm using, like, this is like a $30 Princess Auto Harbor Freight kind of gun, but I'm just using it to spray my primer with. And I'm using some high build primer. This can's been kicking around my garage for a couple years, so we'll see if it's still good. If not, I've got another can of primer down there that's been kicking around for a couple years, so we'll see if it's still good. This is not the most ideal gun for spraying primer. This tip is it's a 1.4. I don't know if you can read that there. Yeah, it's a 1.4. You're supposed to have like a 1.8 to 2.0 because primer's a little thicker. And because this has been sitting around, I've had to add some thinner to it because it's pretty thick. But I'm gonna get this thing sprayed. We'll see how it goes. And I mean, if that stuff's terrible, I'll have to switch to the other. But we're gonna get this thing sprayed right now. The whole car has pretty much been sanded at different points. I either used 80 grit in some spots and I used about 120 in others. And then for the new hood, it comes epoxy primered. I just scuffed it up with 220, just so the high build will stick to it. And I'm gonna spray the underside of my trunk lid. But just so you know what kind of sandpaper I use, the high build will fill in all the deep scratches, I'm hoping. I'm gonna put multiple coats of high build on it. Some days I swear I'm Dutch. You probably noticed the first can that I sprayed out, it sprayed like garbage. And me being the cheap guy that I am, I didn't want to waste a can of primer, so I sprayed it anyway. And you see how textured the roof is. That first one, it sprayed out so thick, and it was just trash. And I should have just stopped, but I didn't. I wanted to use it up and spray the whole can out, so I did. But I switched to the other can of primer that I had, and you probably saw in the video, it sprayed 10 times better. It sprays just like paint. And like, I like how this is all looking. Because with the gloss, like when it was wet, I'm liking what I see. So that's it for tonight. I'm gonna let this cure, and what I bought that I might spray tonight is I have a can of guide coat. You might see some guys use the powder and they rub the powder on, but the powder was like 40 bucks for a tin, whereas that stuff's like $9. So I'm probably gonna spray it on tonight so that it's dry tomorrow along with the rest of the primer. And then I gotta get to sanding. Okay, it's day number 2, and pretty much today is just sanding. Tons of sanding. Sanding sucks, especially when you have to do it with a block and you don't have any power tools to do it with, or air tools, because this is that step I feel that is best done by hand. And it's definitely a lengthy process. So you'll see I've got the whole car sprayed with my guide coat. And if you don't know what guide coat is, you can do it in a powder or a spray. This is the spray. And like when you spray it on, like it almost looks like a powder going on. And you're just gonna mist it on like that. And then as you sand it, I mean, when you sand, I guess I can show you. I'm using 180 grit. I already did the other side of the car. It took like 3 hours. And I was using 220 and it was taking forever. So I knocked it down to 180 and it was much, much quicker. But with the guide coat, what it does is as you're sanding, right? The idea is you want to sand all that guide coat off, and it's going to show you where your low spots are and your high spots. And if you keep sanding this, eventually you'll get it all down to your lowest spot, and if that black's gone, then you know you're good. So consider it took me like over 3 hours to sand the other side, but now that I've knocked it down to a 180 grit, which is still fine because it's not going to leave deep enough scratches where the next coat of primer isn't going to fill. I should be able to knock this side out much, much quicker. For you, it's going to look like a few seconds because of the time lapse. For me, I'm going to be hating life for the next couple hours because sanding absolutely sucks. But I can sit here and complain about it or just get it done. So that's what I'm going to do. Get it done. Okay, after about a good 5 hours of sanding, I am finally done block sanding. But I ran into one problem. This whole area, I can feel it. When I rub my hand this way, and even if I go up and down, this whole area right here is low. And you would definitely see it once this car got painted. You would see it almost look at how wavy this quarter panel is anyway. I mean, this car had a rough life. I don't know who owned this car before me, but this car's already had quarter panels replaced on it. And I considered replacing them again, but that's a lot of work, a lot of money. And I wasn't about to do it. I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna work with what I got. But that, I mean, I feel like I got them pretty straight, but this right here, I can feel is one big low spot. So I'm gonna have to put some filler in here. And I mean, we got a couple more days of work now because of it, but I'm going to deal with that now, put some filler in there, sand it down, spray some high build just in that one spot, block sand it again. Then we should be ready for the final coat of primer that I can hit with the orbital sander. So I'm going to now spend the next day or two screwing around with this spot, and hopefully we can get this painted this weekend. Hopefully. Okay, finally done block sanding. Out of here. Just kidding. These are really expensive. But we're done sanding. Whew, block sanding anyway. Okay. I'm gonna blow this garage out because we got dust everywhere. And we are gonna spray this thing with its final coat of high build. And then I get to use some fun tools. Stuff that makes the job a little quicker. So let's get this sprayed. Okay, I got the high build sprayed. So just gonna let this fully cure overnight, and then tomorrow I sand. Okay, it's been a couple days since I videoed anything because I didn't feel it was really worth me videoing more sanding. Nobody needs to see somebody rethink their life choices for that long because it probably took me about 4 hours, even with the orbital sander. I sand it with 500 grit, but it still takes quite a while to make everything nice and smooth. But finally ready to paint, and as you can see, I've already wet the floor. It took me about an hour trying to get all the dust out of here, blowing it out with the leaf blower and the air compressor and sweeping and stuff. You know, you gotta try and get as much dirt out as you can, and by wetting the floor, it'll trap a lot of the dust as you walk around painting, stirring it up. In case you're wondering, these orbital sanders, what takes so long, for me anyway, was my air compressor. I've only got a 20-gallon air compressor, and those sanders require a lot of air, and I was only sanding for about 15 seconds at a time, and then it would slow down to the point where it wasn't doing a good job, so I'd have to stop, let the compressor build back up, and continue sanding. But we're done with that. Done. Finally, I'm not touching another sander with this thing. We're gonna paint, and this gun has done me well for just little jobs in the past, and it did fine with spraying the primer. But for this job, I decided to treat myself, and I bought a new gun. And this was just like a cheap $30, $40 gun from, you know, it's like a Harbor Freight Princess Auto gun. This I got off Amazon. This was about 160 bucks. And it's a Astro Euro Pro. But just the feel of this, it is so much smoother than that gun. And I'm looking forward to using it. I switched my regulator over and water separator. And yeah, I'm gonna start mixing paint. Gonna get the fan going, my ghetto fan set up. And we are going to start painting this, finally. Well, the GoPro battery died, so I'm not sure how much it got. It took 2 hours to spray this, so the GoPro did not last 2 hours. It's still weird to look at. I've had this car for 12 years. It's been nothing but black primer. And now I'm looking at color for the first time. It's not perfect, but I love it. Ugh. I can't stop looking at it. It's so weird to look at it in color, but it turned out amazing. A little bit of trash in the paint, it's expected. I mean, I did it in my garage. You get some air coming in from the door, it stirs up a little bit of dust. The water has kind of dried up now. It's to be expected that I'm going to get a little trash in the paint, and I do have the odd run, so a little bit of wet sanding is going to be having to take place. But definitely, I have only ever painted with cheap guns like this, and I've only ever painted like the odd fender or something, nothing major, bumper skin, whatever. This, world of a difference. This thing made this job so much easier. A quality gun, man, it sprayed so much better. Like, I've never painted with such a broad span. It's always been a small in there, and no matter how you play with that stupid gun, it never sprayed just right. But this gun, right out of the box, I barely had to touch anything, and it sprayed mint. And definitely invest in a somewhat decent gun. I love looking at it. One thing, if you have a shop heater going, a small heater, whatever, which I did, if you leave it running while painting, you're gonna put it to sleep like I did. I think it overheated because the overspray plugged the screen, and it went to sleep. So I'm gonna let it cool down, and we'll see if it turns back on. And I have one blemish. My hose, when I was spraying, touched. You might be able to see it. There's a gray mark there now. That is a dust mark from the hose that touched the pillar. And I'm not gonna fix it. Because let's face it, this car is not perfect. Nothing about it's perfect. You have to expect the odd blemish. I'm just gonna leave it. But, oh, I love it. Look at everything turned out great. So I still have more to do. Obviously, I'm gonna let this sit for a couple days, and then I gotta ship it out, put it in the other garage, and I have the doors, the front fenders, the front bumper. I gotta flip over the hood and trunk lid and paint the other sides of those. So I'm gonna spend the next little bit getting everything else taken care of, and then the next video is gonna be the final assembly and the finished product. So keep an eye out for that video, but that's it for this one. I'm going to bed because it's late. See ya.